Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. In this video I made some Thomson, which is also known as grilled fish, so I hope you guys enjoy this. So my main ingredient are these two fish, which I did cut and prep beforehand. I have a separate video on how I cut and prep fish like this. I also have some vegetables, 3 of which I have pre-diced. So I have some chopped leeks here and some chopped celery. I also have some chopped onions as well and 1 dried bay leaf. I've also got 1 whole nutmeg and 1 green Scotch bonnet. I also have a bowl of onions here, which I cut into circles. I used 1 whole onion for this. On top of that, I have 1 whole lemon, some ginger and garlic paste, 1 Maggi cube, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of chicken seasoning, jumbo chicken stock to be exact, half a cup of water, and a small cup of oil. So first off, I have my celery, onion, leeks and Scotch bonnet here, and I placed them all into a blender. I also pulled the stern off the green Scotch bonnet pepper before placing it in the blender. I also added some water, making sure to use just a little bit at a time. This is when I began blending my vegetables, and I added some more water because the vegetables weren't blending properly. I also had to shake the blender a little bit just so that everything could be mixed properly. So next I have my pre-prepped fish here, and I started cutting some small lines into the body of the fish, making sure that the knife touches the bones of the fish. So here I made just about 6 lines per side, and you can see here that I am cutting some lines into the other side as well. Oh, and by the way, I cut the lines into my fish diagonally, but if you would like to cut the lines into your fish vertically, feel free to do that. So I have my nutmeg here, and I've also got a grater, and I have a plate that I used to grate the nutmeg on. This is when I just started grating the nutmeg. You could use powdered nutmeg if you like, but for me, I feel like whole nutmeg adds more flavour. This bit took a bit longer than it should have, but that's because I got a bit too carried away when grating the nutmeg. I was only meant to grate half of it, but I ended up grating about 2/3 of the nutmeg. So I only just used half of what I grated here. Now it's time for me to season my fish. So I have my tablespoon of salt, but I did not use the whole tablespoon. I only used just a little bit. And this is where I pre-seasoned the fish with some salt. So you can see here that I'm rubbing the salt into the lines that I cut. And I also rubbed the salt inside the fish as well. So essentially what I'm doing is rubbing salt into each and every area of the fish, so that when I start seasoning the fish, the seasoning actually kicks in and makes the fish taste good. Next, I've got the vegetables here that I blended, and I poured that onto the fish, and me being over the top as usual, I scooped up all the remains and put them on the fish. I then added half of my grated nutmeg here. I used some garlic and ginger paste as well, just under a tablespoon of that. I then added my Maggi cube. Also, I poured my oil onto the seasonings, and lastly I added my bay leaf. I was actually meant to blend it, but I preferred to sprinkle it on top. Feel free to blend your bay leaves with your green vegetables if you wish. So here you can just see that I am now mixing the seasonings into my fish. And like I said before, I made sure to target all areas of the fish, including the insides. I've got some aluminium foil here which I covered the bowl with. I usually use 2 depending on the size of the bowl, but yeah, once I had wrapped that up, I left it to marinate overnight. So I have my marinated fish here, and I used a different bowl for this because I wanted to store it in the fridge, so I had to find a different bowl for it to fit. Now I started placing both my fish into this tray here, and I just made sure that they were lined perfectly and that they fit in the tray properly. I also saved the stock that I ended up making from seasoning my fish, and I only poured half into the fish because I wanted to use the rest for later. And I poured a little bit more oil onto the fish just to give it some moisture. And now it's time for me to grill it. So I've got my grill here, which I put my tray of fish into, and then I turned my grill on. I did set it to medium, by the way, not too high or too low. Here's me checking back on it now, and you can see here that it's kind of brown. So that's when I flipped them both over so that I could grill the other side of the fish. And guys, please make sure you flip the fish over gently, because flipping it over too hard will break the fish. I used 2 spatulas to help me achieve this, but you can also use 1 spatula to do this, or a wooden spoon. So I've grilled it on each side for about 35 to 40 minutes, and this is how it turned out. And now it's time for me to make my sauce. So I've got my frying pan here, which I added some oil onto, and then I started frying my onions. Now I did leave the heat on a bit too high, so the onions may turn out to be a little bit burnt. I was initially aiming for the onions to be a little bit crunchy, but not to the point where they were slightly burnt. I then started taking some of the onions away, and I left a few of them in this pan. Now I did say that I wanted to save some of the stock that I made from seasoning the fish, so I added it into this frying pan, and I also added some water. I added the water bit by bit so that I could mix the sauce in with the water properly. I also added a teaspoon of chicken seasoning, and I mixed that in with the sauce. I also added some more water so that I don't lose the water from the sauce. I then added some more water until the sauce looked like this, and then I left it to boil for about 5 minutes or so. So I have my oval plate here, which I placed both of my fish onto. And by the way, guys, you don't even have to make the sauce for your fish. You can just present it with raw onions, or you can present it with cooked onions. You could even make a different sauce for this, or add tomato puree to your sauce to give it a bit more colour. It's completely up to you how you want to present your fish. So here I started placing my onions on top of the fish, and I placed the onions in a way that I spaced them out a little bit, and also placed one onion on top of the other. And like I said before, you could choose to present your fish this way. You don't even have to make the sauce for the onions, or you could just cut raw onions and place them on your fish like this. So I've got this sauce here that I previously made, and I added it on top of the fish and the onions. And I also placed it in the direction going from head to tail. And to finish off, I spaced out all the onions and the sauce, just so that the fish could be properly covered with them both. So that's it. This is how I made my Thomson. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I also hope that you guys found this video useful. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you guys think of this recipe, or if you're going to try it out for yourself, or if you have tried it out for yourself. Now stay blessed and take care. Bye everyone.